Take a slow breath and allow yourself to arrive in this moment. Nothing needs to be rushed. There is nowhere else you need to be right now. This time is simply for awareness. Sometimes, when you choose to listen instead of scroll past, something important becomes clear. Not because of luck or coincidence, but because attention changes how we perceive our lives. When you pause, you notice what has been quietly aligning. You may feel that today carries a different energy. Not dramatic. Not overwhelming. Just slightly clearer. Slightly steadier. This clarity doesn't demand action, it invites reflection. Notice how your body responds when you slow down. Shoulders soften. Breath deepens. The mind begins to organize itself. In this state, understanding becomes easier. You've been learning how to stay present even when outcomes are uncertain. This skill matters. It helps you make thoughtful decisions without unnecessary stress. You don't need to interpret signs or search for guarantees. What matters is how you show up, with awareness, patience, and honesty. These qualities shape what comes next. You may realize that consistency has been working quietly in your favor. Small efforts. Repeated care. Thoughtful choices. They don't announce themselves, but they build momentum. There is value in choosing to stay with a message until it finishes. It reflects patience. It reflects openness. It reflects trust in your own judgment. You are not here to be convinced of anything. You are here to listen and decide what resonates. Take what supports you. Leave what doesn't. You may notice a sense of readiness, not urgency, just preparedness. This feeling allows you to respond wisely when opportunities appear. Stay with this calm. Let it ground you. And continue listening. As you stay with this moment, you may notice how attention itself begins to shift your perspective. Nothing around you has changed, yet something within you has softened. This is the power of presence. You begin to recognize that listening fully is a form of respect, for yourself and for your time. When you choose to stay, you give ideas space to settle instead of rushing past them. You don't need immediate answers. Understanding grows when you allow thoughts to unfold naturally. The mind becomes clearer when it is not pressured. You may sense that something is aligning, not as a sudden event, but as a gradual readiness. Readiness to respond calmly. Readiness to choose wisely. Readiness to act when the moment feels right. You notice how steadiness reduces noise. Concerns feel less urgent. Priorities feel clearer. This calm doesn't remove challenges, it changes how you meet them. You've been practicing patience more than you realize. Each time you paused instead of reacting, you strengthened this ability. Each pause made space for better decisions. You understand that meaningful change often starts quietly. It begins with awareness, continues with consistency, and grows through trust in the process. You allow yourself to remain open without expectation. Openness keeps you flexible. Expectation often creates pressure. You choose openness. You stay connected to your breath. Each breath returns you to now. Each return steadies your focus. You remain present. You remain attentive. As this calm awareness continues, you may begin to notice how your thoughts slow down naturally. Not because you force them to stop, but because they no longer need to rush. When urgency fades, clarity has room to appear. You start to recognize what truly deserves your attention. Some concerns lose their weight. Some priorities become clearer. This sorting happens quietly, without effort. You realize that staying present is not passive. It's an active choice to engage with life thoughtfully. When you're present, you respond instead of react. You may feel a subtle confidence growing, not excitement, not certainty, but steadiness. This steadiness helps you trust your ability to handle what comes next. You notice how patience supports better outcomes. When you allow time for understanding, decisions feel more aligned. You move with intention instead of pressure. You understand that listening fully, to a moment, to a thought, to yourself, builds self-trust. Each time you listen, you reinforce your own judgment. You begin to appreciate simplicity, clear focus, honest effort.
Realistic expectations. These elements create progress that lasts. You remain connected to your breath, letting it anchor you whenever the mind wanders. Each return brings you back to balance. You stay here. You stay aware. As you stay with this steady presence, you may begin to notice how your inner space feels wider. There is room to think, room to feel, and room to choose without pressure. You understand now that calm does not mean nothing is happening. Calm means things are arranging themselves in a healthier order. When you stop rushing, life shows you what actually matters. You notice that your reactions have softened. Situations that once felt urgent now feel manageable. You pause, you observe, and you respond with intention. This is growth in motion. You begin to trust that you don't need to control every outcome. Your role is to prepare, to stay aware, and to act when clarity appears. Letting go of control frees energy for better focus. You recognize that your past experiences have sharpened your judgment. They didn't weaken you. They refined you. You now see situations with more depth and balance. You feel more comfortable being honest with yourself. About what you want. About what you're ready for. About what no longer fits. This honesty keeps you aligned. You allow yourself to slow down without guilt. Rest becomes a strategy, not a delay. When you restore your energy, you think more clearly and act more wisely. You notice how presence improves everything it touches. Conversations feel more sincere. Tasks feel more complete. Moments feel fuller. You remain grounded in this awareness. You move forward without rushing. As this sense of steadiness continues, you may notice a growing confidence in your own timing. You no longer feel pushed by the clock or pulled by expectations that aren't yours. You move when it feels right. You begin to understand that listening carefully is a strength. When you listen, to situations, to people, to yourself, you gather information that helps you choose wisely. This habit protects you from unnecessary stress. You notice that your energy feels more balanced. You're not constantly drained or overstimulated. You pace yourself. This balance allows you to stay consistent over time. You recognize that progress doesn't need to be dramatic to be real. Quiet improvements matter. Small refinements add up. You respect this process. You allow yourself to change your mind when new clarity appears. This flexibility isn't confusion, it's growth responding to insight. You see how letting go of pressure improves focus. When pressure fades, creativity and problem-solving return. You think more clearly. You feel more grounded in what you value. Decisions align more naturally with your priorities instead of outside noise. You stay connected to your breath, using it as a steady anchor whenever attention As you continue in this steady state, you may notice how naturally your mind returns to calm after movement or distraction. This return is becoming familiar. It no longer feels like effort, it feels like home. You recognize that clarity doesn't mean knowing everything in advance. It means trusting yourself to respond thoughtfully as situations unfold. This trust keeps you flexible and grounded. You become more comfortable with simplicity. Clear intentions. Honest effort. Rest when needed. Action when ready. This simplicity reduces mental noise. You notice how your sense of timing has improved. You act neither too early nor too late. You wait when patience serves you, and you move when readiness is present. You allow yourself to let go of outcomes you cannot control. This release doesn't remove responsibility, it refines it. You focus on what is yours to shape. You understand that calm presence influences others as well. When you stay centered, conversations soften and situations stabilize more easily. You acknowledge your progress without needing comparison. Your journey is measured by alignment, not speed. This understanding brings quiet satisfaction. You continue to anchor yourself in small, steady moments, breath, posture, awareness. These anchors support balance throughout your day. You remain steady. You remain clear. You continue listening. As this steadiness deepens, you may notice how your confidence now feels settled rather than reactive. You don't need constant reassurance. You rely on awareness and experience. You begin to sense when to engage and when to step back. This discernment protects your energy and keeps your focus clear. You understand that growth often looks ordinary from the outside. But inside, it feels like alignment, less resistance, more flow. You become more patient with results. You trust that consistent effort compounds over time, even when progress feels quiet. You allow space for reflection without self-criticism. Reflection becomes informative, not draining. You learn and adjust gently. You notice how calm preparation reduces anxiety. When you prepare thoughtfully, you face uncertainty with steadier footing. You feel more grounded in your values. When choices arise, you recognize what fits and what doesn't without struggle. You continue returning to simple anchors: breath, posture, attention. These anchors keep you centered no matter what the day brings. You remain composed. You remain intentional. As this calm awareness stays with you, you may notice how your inner dialogue has softened even more. Thoughts still arise, but they no longer demand immediate attention. You choose what to engage with. You recognize that steadiness is now part of how you move through moments. Even when situations change, you remain centered. This stability gives you freedom. You understand that confidence grows from clarity, not from forcing outcomes. When you act with clarity, results take care of themselves over time. You feel more comfortable trusting your pace. You are no longer measuring yourself against external timelines. Your rhythm feels natural and sustainable. You notice how intention shapes your actions. When intention is clear, effort feels lighter and more focused. You waste less energy. You allow yourself to appreciate where you are without losing sight of where you're going. Contentment and ambition coexist without conflict. You see how awareness improves resilience. When challenges appear, you meet them with perspective rather than tension. You return again to your breath, steady and grounding. It reminds you that calm is always accessible, no matter what surrounds you. You remain attentive. You remain aligned. You continue listening. To awareness, to return to responsibility, and to return to the part of yourself that knows you are capable of more than avoidance, more than excuses, and more than fear. More whole, not because everything is perfect, but because you are learning to accept yourself as you are while still believing in who you are becoming, and this balance between acceptance and growth is the quiet strength that carries you through uncertainty, reminding you that you are not lost, you are learning, not failing, you are evolving, and not alone, you are supported by your own resilience, your own awareness, and your own capacity to rise, again and again, with greater understanding and steadier hope. Faithfulness, the faithfulness to show up, to listen, to speak honestly, and to act with compassion, and in this faithfulness, the deepest form of loss is prevented, not by changing fate, but by honoring the present, and not by fighting time, but by using it wisely, because what truly keeps something alive is not hope alone, but attention, not intention alone, but action, and not emotion alone, but the steady choice to care before it is too late to make a difference. You stay present with what matters now. You act thoughtfully. You rest intentionally. You move forward with calm assurance. Remain here for a moment. You continue to refine how you show up, calmer, clearer, more intentional. You don't rush growth. You respect its rhythm. You remain present with what's unfolding now. You move forward with care. You stay grounded in yourself. Let this calm support you. Breathe, moving whether you act or not, but only your actions decide whether you grow or remain where you are. This is not a warning to scare you, it is a reminder to empower you, to shake you awake, and to tell you that the power to change has always been in your hands. Start now, not because you feel ready, but because your future deserves your effort today. You walk forward knowing that you were created with intention, that you are capable of achieving more than you can currently see, and that the universe is preparing beautiful things that will align perfectly with your growth. You are meant to rise, meant to shine, meant to impact the world simply by being yourself. Continue your journey with hope in your heart and confidence in your spirit, because the best chapters of your life are not behind you, they are waiting. As you stay with this calm focus, you may notice how trust in yourself continues to strengthen. Not because everything is certain, but because you've learned how to stay steady even when things are still unfolding. You understand now that awareness gives you options. When you see clearly, you are no longer pushed into quick reactions. You choose responses that support your long-term well-being. You begin to feel more comfortable with steady effort. You don't rely on bursts of motivation. You rely on consistency, and this consistency quietly shapes results. You notice how emotional balance improves decision-making. When feelings are acknowledged but not rushed, clarity emerges. You act with intention instead of impulse. You allow yourself to simplify. You release unnecessary tasks, expectations, and distractions. What remains feels manageable and meaningful. You recognize that patience doesn't slow progress, it protects it. By allowing time for understanding, you avoid mistakes that come from haste. You stay present with small actions. Each one, done with care, contributes to a stable foundation. You respect these details. You return again to your breath. Calm. Steady. Reliable. It reminds you that balance is always accessible. You remain grounded. You remain aware. As this awareness stays with you, you may begin to notice how naturally your mind returns to balance. Even when thoughts arise, they no longer pull you away for long. You come back more easily. You recognize that steadiness is becoming familiar. What once felt like effort now feels natural. You are learning how to remain centered without forcing control. You understand that not every situation needs immediate resolution. Some clarity comes through observation, not action. Waiting with awareness becomes a skill you trust. You notice that your confidence is quieter now, but stronger. It doesn't depend on approval or outcomes. It comes from knowing you can adapt and respond wisely. You allow yourself to focus on what is directly in front of you. This focus reduces overwhelm and improves the quality of what you do. You see how calm attention improves judgment. You notice details, anticipate challenges, and respond thoughtfully. This awareness supports better results. You accept that growth includes pauses. Pauses don't mean stagnation, they allow integration. What you've learned begins to settle into habit. You continue to return to the present moment. Each return reinforces clarity and balance. You remain steady. You remain present. As you remain in this steady awareness, you may notice a deeper sense of ease settling in. Not because everything is solved, but because you trust your ability to handle what arises. You begin to feel more comfortable being exactly where you are. You're no longer rushing to reach the next moment. You give this one your full attention. You recognize how much strength there is in calm persistence. Showing up consistently, even in small ways, builds stability that lasts. You notice that your thoughts are clearer when you reduce unnecessary noise. You choose what to consume, what to engage with, and what to release. This choice protects your focus. You allow yourself to slow conversations down. You listen more fully. You speak more deliberately. This presence deepens understanding. You understand that peace is not something you wait for, it's something you practice. Each thoughtful response reinforces it. You feel more aligned with your values. When decisions arise, you sense which direction feels steady rather than pressured. You acknowledge that uncertainty is part of progress. You don't resist it. You work with it, adapting calmly as things unfold. You return again to your breath. It remains steady and supportive, reminding you that grounding is always available. You stay present. You stay balanced. Opportunity, greater influence, and a life shaped deliberately rather than accidentally, this is not an exaggerated promise, it is the natural outcome of behavior repeated consistently over time. Continue clicking forward, continue acting with intention, continue honoring your decisions, and allow discipline to quietly deliver what motivation never could: stability, strength, clarity, control, and a future built by choice rather than chance. As this calm awareness continues, you may notice a quiet sense of confidence settling within you. Not the kind that demands certainty, but the kind that trusts your ability to adjust and move forward thoughtfully. You recognize that your focus has become more intentional. You're less distracted by what doesn't serve you and more attentive to what supports your growth. This focus brings clarity without effort. You understand that meaningful change is often subtle. It doesn't always announce itself. It shows up in better choices, steadier habits, and calmer responses. You feel more comfortable letting go of what you can't control. This release doesn't weaken you, it frees energy for what you can influence. You notice how patience has reshaped your perspective. Waiting no longer feels empty. It feels purposeful, giving insight time to form. You appreciate how presence improves your experience of everyday moments. Simple tasks feel more complete when your attention is fully there. You trust that consistency continues to work in your favor. Each small, steady action contributes to long-term stability. You return once more to your breath, calm and even. It anchors you whenever the mind begins to wander. You remain grounded. You remain attentive. As this awareness settles more fully, you may feel a sense of integration, like the pieces are beginning to work together without effort. Nothing needs to be forced. What you've practiced is becoming natural. You recognize that steadiness is now a resource you can return to at any moment. When things feel uncertain, you know how to pause, breathe, and regain clarity. You trust your capacity to respond with care.